Kalispera, everyone.
Kalispera.
This is one of the few words. Norok. This is one of the few words I know in Greek. But I'm very happy to meet you all. And hello again, and welcome on behalf of the Greek Cultural Foundation in Romania to the meeting about mapping the state and future of the Greek cultural sector. I am Anca Macoviciuc. I'm a communication consultant for cultural projects based in Bucharest, and I'm happy to meet our distinguished guests from Athens, the famous conductor Theodoros Orfanidis from Orchestra Mobile, and Vassilis Karamitsanis, president of Animasyros International Animation Festival. Hello.
Thank you for having us, Anca.
Thank you again. Well, each of you has contributed to important cultural events in Greece, propelling music and cinema in your country and around the globe, but also making Greek culture known to the world. So thank you so much for joining us. We are honored to have you here.
Thank you.
We find ourselves in difficult times amid an economical crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic, and we're trying to grasp the nature of the damage for the cultural sector, the amount and the type of help needed, and maybe talk about some solutions. So without further ado, let's start by talking about how has the state of the Greek cultural sector changed in the past months? How did you meet the health safety measures, taking into account the importance of good health in Greek culture?
Vassilis may begin first if you want.
Status of how you host an event, a cultural event in Greece following the pandemic measures, which are going to be long-lasting to my understanding, and at least is going to touch the hosting of our next festival edition, which is late September this year on the island of Syros. We shall consider thinking of how the situation was in Greece about hosting an event prior to the pandemic, so you can really imagine and discover how the situation is going to be for the foreseeable time based on the new health measures. I don't know if it would be useful to see what's all about hosting an animation event on a Greek island by showing you a very short video where you're going to see the island itself and how the sessions are and what it contains, and how many people from the audience and from the artist industry, the animation industry, are involved in our sessions. So I may, if I'm allowed, I may share a short video about what Animasyros used to be till the 12th edition.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Για πρώτη φορά επιλέγει περιβαλλοντικό περιεχόμενο και γίνεται green, anima green, με στόχο την αφύπνιση του κόσμου σχετικά με τα προβλήματα τα περιβαλλοντικά που αντιμετωπίζει ο πλανήτης, αλλά και με ένα ευρύτερο φάσμα αντιμετώπισης του προβλήματος. Όταν πραγματεύεις ένα ζήτημα τόσο καυτό για την κοινωνική πραγματικότητα και τόσο πανανθρώπινο, ίσως από μόνο του αυτό είναι αρκετά απορροφητικό ώστε να μην χρειαστεί να κάνεις περισσότερα καινοτόμα πράγματα.
Η Aegean Rebirth και το Animasyros επιχειρεί σε διαφορετικά σημεία, σε λιμάνια και υφάλους, για τον καθαρισμό, για την αποσυμφόρηση του θαλάσσιου περιβάλλοντος, με σκοπό να παραδώσουμε ένα κοινό μήνυμα, ότι η προστασία του θαλάσσιου περιβάλλοντος μας αφορά όλους.
Είναι ένα animation workshop για παιδιά γυμνασίου. Έχουμε μια συμμετοχή πάνω από 20 παιδιά, τα οποία όλα δουλεύουν μαζί κάτω από την κάμερα, χρησιμοποιώντας πλαστικά και σκουπίδια που έχουμε βρει στις παραλίες, δίνοντάς του ζωή και προσπαθώντας να πούμε μια ιστορία με οικολογική συνείδηση.
Hello Greece, I'm Nancy Denny Phelps and I'm from Belgium and I am a journalist who writes about animation, but I'm also here in another capacity as the pitching coach for the pitching sessions at the Agora. I love to come to Syros. The quality of the films, the programs are so wonderful. The opera the other night, I've still got beautiful visions in my head from that. It's amazing to see so many wonderful volunteers. Staff is lovely. The festival is perfect. Everybody should come to Syros to the festival.
Ήρθαμε από το Κιλκής, από το πρώτο γενικό λύκειο, μαζί με 4 παιδιά για να παρουσιάσουμε την εργασία τους. Η εργασία τους είναι μια ταινία κινημένων σχεδίων που φτιάξαν στο πλαίσιο του μαθήματος ερευνητική εργασία. Θέλαμε να την προβάλλουμε στο κοινό. Επιλέχθηκε από το Animasyros και παράλληλα θέλαμε να προσφέρουν και εθελοντική εργασία. που είναι και αυτό μέρος του μαθήματος ερευνητική εργασία.
Είμαστε η ομάδα του πρώτου Γελκικής.
Εξαιρετικό φεστιβάλ, ένα πανέμορφο νησί που είναι η Σύρος. Θεωρώ ότι είναι κρίμα που ήρθα τώρα για πρώτη φορά να δω αυτό το θεσμό και αυτή την διοργάνωση, γιατί οι ταινίες οι οποίες προγραμματίζονται είναι εξαιρετικές. Θα έλεγα ότι το πόσο δημοφιλές είναι τελικά αυτό το είδος, αυτό το ζάνρα του τύπου κινηματογράφου που είναι τα κινούμενα σχέδια, το animation. Εύχομαι να συνεχιστεί αυτός ο θεσμός πια πολλά χρόνια ακόμα.
So I'm Stéphane Huberblis, I'm the film director of the Impunity. So yesterday the screening was awesome because it's always something important for us to share the experience with the audience, especially with the Greek audience who is very active, I want to say also activist.
Το φεστιβάλ είναι καταπληκτικό εδώ στο Animasyros. Βοηθάει πάρα πολύ τους νέους δημιουργούς αλλά και τους παλιούς και θέλω πραγματικά το εύχομαι να συνεχίσει και να γίνεται για πάρα πολλά χρόνια, γιατί είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό και για το ελληνικό animation αλλά και γενικότερα για τη διεθνή σκηνή του animation σήμερα.
It's not my first time in Greece. Actually, I was here a month ago with my family. We spent the summer here in the islands and we fell in love with this country, this beautiful country. It's my first time here in Syros and in the Animasyros Festival, and I love it. It's great. The hospitality is wonderful. Nice people, very good films, good food, everything. Weather, can't ask for anything more.
We are here in Animasyros and we're doing a stop motion workshop for kids from 6 to 13 years old, and it's called Rebetikats. As you can understand, it's about cats and Rebetiko, because both elements have a strong connection with the place we are in now. Rebetiko because of Vambakaris, because Syros is the island of Rebetiko, because this island is full of cats as well. So, Rebetikats.
At this year's festival, we're doing a stop-motion animation workshop based around the Greek artist Alexis Akrithakis. The students will be using claymation to bring to life animations based on the artist's style.
Φέτος στο Animasyros 12 κάνουμε το εργαστήριο Animaro κουλουράκια με τα δύο χεράκια. Η τεχνική είναι clay animation, δηλαδή με πλαστελίνες, δουλεύουμε με πλαστελίνες. Χρησιμοποίησα την πλαστελίνη επειδή μοιάζει πολύ με το ζυμάρι, καθώς η κεντρική ιδέα είναι τα κουλουράκια της γιαγιάς. Αυτή η έμπνευση ήρθε καθώς το εργαστήριο απευθύνεται στα καπί. 12 χρόνια Animasyros και πώς γουστάρω Animaro κουλουράκια συνεχώς στα 13 θα Animaro άμα το θέλει και ο Θεός.
Το σκίτσο λοιπόν παίρνει ψυχή και σάρκα και οστά και έτσι προσπαθούμε μέσα σε ένα μικρό χαρτάκι να δώσουμε κίνηση μέσα από flipbook, δηλαδή πολλές εικόνες μαζί. Η αρχή του κινούμενου σχεδίου είναι αυτή.
Vassilis. Well done. How many days is it actually?
This is 5 days, starting from a Wednesday and ending the last Sunday of its September.
Bravo.
This year's festival is planned for the 23rd to the 27th of September, provided that this is allowed by the government and the local authorities.
So I assume that in Greece, as in Romania, cultural activities were the first to stop and they will be the last to start. This is why you have the festival in September. This is why Theodoros has his festival in August.
Okay.
I'm also the artistic director of the Sacred Music Festival in Patmos. We really had great plans regarding this year, but nevertheless, we thought without the coronavirus, we are going to make it happen. And I'm expecting all of you to join. Vassilis, you are welcome, of course, Anca. Yes, this is actually what happens. The cultural things were first to stop, like you said, Anca. And I think they will be the first to be cut off when and if coronavirus strikes back again during the fall of this year, because everyone, I think almost everyone is anticipating a new. I think that the things are not so allegro, let's say, at the moment. I would say that it was a big deal what happened, because we saw, and correct me, Vassilis, if I'm wrong, if you see it in another way, but we saw that regarding musicians and culture in general, that in Greece, there's no whatsoever support or program whatsoever regarding these people and these, let's say, teams of artists, like musicians, actors, painters, etc. So the people were downhearted. They were very frustrated because, as you can imagine, if you don't work, you cannot pay your rent, you cannot pay electricity, etc. So you have basic problems which have to be solved, and still we have to face these problems, you know.
You were talking about dialogue. How did you approach, or how did you see the dialogue between yourselves, the public, and the authorities? Have you reached to a common understanding? I mean, many artists complain that they are invisible to the government, and recently the Greek Culture Ministry announced a series of corrective measures to support artists after their apparent emission from income benefits sparked an outcry from opposition parties, and even Greek composer Mikis Theodorakis. The culture minister has announced that artists will be included in 100 million euro support fund, including 70 million specifically for staff. How is it and how should it be?
We have to bear in mind some given facts. The first given fact was that the lockdown in Greece was very strict and very abrupt. And some people in the beginning, myself included, were thinking it was premature. In the long run, it was proven a very wise government decision to block everything and lock down everything, even though it had, of course, very, very difficult results in the field of economy, also arts economy. At the same time, during the lockdown, the heavy lockdown, which lasted over 2 months, there were lots of digital stuff being done by entrepreneurs in the arts field, not only by the big foundations or the big state structures, which of course have the resources and the money to do so. The surprising thing is that lots of underground or alternative art entrepreneurs have included the internet, providing digital content. Sometimes this is, of course, debatable because it was free of charge. And this has established a long-lasting, still lasting dialogue with the digital audience, which is something of among our goals as Animasyros and the animation sector, if I may say so. The thing is that recently there were a number of measures, financial measures, applying also art workers. In the beginning, there was not this initiative from the government, but now they are included in some allowances and also some funds. The most important thing for me is the fund for our sector, it's for the first time the Hellenic Ministry of Culture and Sports has introduced a special funding stream for animation films. It's the first time in history that animation has been distinguished among other cinema genres. And it's the first time that besides the digital ministry, we get some funding as a community for producing 24 short animation films with a funding ranging from 10,000 euro to 20,000 euro. And it's already an involvement which we haven't expected. We have fought for, of course, long time, and we're happy for this thing. Of course, such measures, in my understanding and in my opinion, are not enough, and there are lots of things to be done for the arts people. And when I talk about the arts people, it's not just only the creative people, it's also the supporting people to the arts. Like, just bear in mind that Athens is one of the largest theater capitals in Europe, if I may dare say, to the world. And this has people supporting technicians, people doing the scenery, ushers. Like, we have a very large brand new opera house in Greece, located in the stunning Stavros Niarchos Foundation Cultural Center, hosting in 2 different halls a total capacity of almost 2,000 people. And there were more than 60 to 80 ushers appointed every day. These people were left without work. And indirectly, they're also working in the arts business, or the technicians of the Greek National Opera, the technicians of the national state-operated theaters, but also the private theaters have been suffering a lot. So there are lots of things to be done, supporting both the creative and the supportive staff of the arts in Greece. And I trust that this is not only the competence of the Ministry of Culture, but also of other ministries, especially the Labor and the Finance Ministry. And of course, a great load of work is to be done in the field of solidarity between the art workers and the public.
First and foremost, I'm very happy to hear that your festival is being supported by this government, because it deserves to be supported. And I see you have done a tremendous deal of work. Nevertheless, if we say that the government gave 800 euros for the freelancers in music business and actors, etc., and still to this day we don't 90,000 people still waiting to collect this money. So if you think about it,
are they eligible? So theoretically, they're going to get the money?
Eventually, I hope that they will, but still, you said it when you began your talk, you are inside this quarantine thing now for 2.5 months. So if you divide 800 for 2.5 months, it's very little money. So actually,
basic salary is true.
Exactly. So this is pocket money. It's not money, it's pocket money. I was the first to call the ministry and the Ministry of Culture and the minister, Ms. Mendoni, and I told her, look, now it's going to be chaotic. It was the beginning of March, and I told her, I'm afraid that there is a big storm coming, and if you don't take measures, these people are going to be frustrated, they want to be angry at you, and they are going to react. Because if you don't have to pay your rent, your electricity, etc., you cannot support your family, you're going to become aggressive, you're going to become downhearted. And how can you perform? Because Vassilis said very correctly that they were through the internet, they gave concerts and etc., they did not get money. But nevertheless, you have, besides the need of getting the money, you have also the need to express yourself. So to whom shall you play? Your room, your walls? No, you have to reach for the public. Isn't it, Vassilis? You reach for the public.
For me, arts activity is an important and cardinal function of a democratic society. It's social expression, social and personal expression above all. It's very, very important.
We all know that the cultural and creative sectors are one of the most dynamic economical sectors, and they are contributing decisively to the economical and social development and cohesion. I mean, culture is also a business. Without culture, you don't have tourism flooding to Greece or coming to Romania. What are tourists going to see in Romania? How are they going to get to all the places they want to? They don't only get to the seaside, they don't only get to an island just because the island is beautiful or the food is amazing. Culture is a very important part. So my question is, if you could explain to us the peculiarities of the funding. How is culture funded nowadays in Greece exactly?
The ways to get money through let's say the government depends on the access you have to the money itself and the government. There are programs, of course, where you can reach out for and say, okay, I have this program, I have this project regarding Greek music, etc. And you can reach out to the ministry and you can get some money in order to support your act, of course. Nevertheless, you have, regarding the music, you have a certain establishment here in Greece, and sometimes it can be hard to get to this establishment and try to work your way around it. So sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not so easy, and like everything in the whole world, but also in Greece, you have to have connections, you have to know people, certain people, in order to help yourself and help the others.
Is the private sector more interested now? Vassilis was telling us about the involvement of the private sector in streaming, but do you see a risen interest in the private sector for supporting music, cinema, and all arts?
Look, I think that this always has to do with the situation of the society, the current situation of the society in general. So if you have a coronavirus, which threatens everything, your life itself, your everyday life, how you're going to get out of the house, how are you going to get into the bus, into the metro, etc. This has a certain reflection in the way that these things are funded and these things are treated. So now, in this case, the situation, because it's also new, it's rather peculiar, and we are still waiting to see how it's going to turn out.
I agree pretty much with Theodore's positioning. I would say that over the past years, there is a digital system of subsidies, cultural subsidies by the ministry, which is far more transparent and it's fully digital, which means that you don't have to come into any physical contact with the ministry. So you apply online and you get the results online. And normally your application is judged by a committee of renowned professionals, yet connections do play a role on both public and private funding, in my opinion, as Theodore said. We're lucky enough in the private sector to have important foundations, mostly based on important people who made their money in the field of shipping, which is a cardinal industry in the country for years. Both Onassis and Niarchos foundations are being based on the wills and the property and the fortune of important shipping tycoons and business tycoons, of course, Stavros Niarchos and Aristotle Onassis, respectively. And other smaller or same large-scale foundations do operate funding streams, most of the time very transparently or quite transparently, to support the arts of every field, focusing especially in young artist works. Yet, funding for culture in a country that is so importantly based financially and socially on it is never enough. Both public and private funding is not enough.
I agree.
To cover such a widespread field of economy and social activity. Also based on the fact you don't face in Romania this situation that 30% of our population, which means also that 30% of our potential beneficiaries of culture, audience, live on islands. I talk from my own personal experience, and I'm sure that Theodoros could also speak from his own personal experience on Patmos Island. I'm in a voluntary entrepreneur in the fields of culture, and more specifically audiovisual arts and animation on an island. You know what? To operate a cultural event and bringing all these people from around the world on an island, which is partly blocked by the rough sea, where the transportation is an additional financing cost that you have to cover every year, that sometimes you may deal with bad weather, sometimes you may deal with other force majeure situations that you cannot cope with. And this is 30% of our population. So Greece is a very special case, especially in the field of culture, given also the fact that lots of our cultural venues are listed venues, so they're closely monitored by the Ministry of Culture. So you need a very large number of premises before the pandemic and even during the pandemic, which are now added by public health premises that we have to take. If I'm allowed to say, our new planning for doing the festival, which is, what's a festival about? It comes from the Latin word festivus, which means to have a festive creation about a form of art.
And share it with people.
Getting together, and now social getting together is not allowed or is heavily regulated. So for the first time in our history, after 13 years, we're not going to host animation screenings in our beloved Italian-style Apollo Theater of Syros, and we have to do it in smaller rooms, pop-up rooms, up to 50 people capacity, or outdoor places, but not outdoor places the way we're used in a very free way in Greece. You have to put a rope around the place where you have the screening and control who's getting in, who's getting out, and where he or she sits. 2 meters distance, so everything is going to be different. And we try to appoint things, not only sticking to the digital part, but focusing on the physical, safe uphosting of what we can do with screenings, animation workshops, industry get-togethers. So the new landscape of creating an animation event, a cultural event in Greece, is a totally new surface for us. And of course, it's a surface that we don't know the logistics, we don't know the measures, we don't know what it's gonna cost more to hosting an event. So at the time being, the most important thing is not just giving money wherever, is to start to reorganize the way funding is being dispersed and really give incentives to festivals to develop their own new means of implementing a physical hosted cultural event, physically hosted cultural event. This is my opinion. So the most important thing, of course, is the first needs that Theodore stressed, like you cannot live for 2.5 months with 800 euros in Greece based on the cost of living, which is rather high. I don't know, it can be even higher than Romania, but for Greece, Greece is expensive. So I want to say the first needs are important, but also giving a potential through funding and potential through cultural sector reorganization is the most important thing. Because maybe the pandemic is over, but the problems are here to stay for longer than the pandemic will stay. So it's important to think of the near, midterm, and long-term future.
I pretty much agree with what Vassilis says. I would stress out that the culture should be more supported by the government and the officials, and also the issues of letting people having projects and transparency, what's going on. This can get better, I think, these two sectors, but I pretty much agree with what Vassilis said.
How much and what kind of truth is to the phrase culture as we knew it is dead? Because the interaction between culture, commerce, and technology through the commerce of cultural products contribute to the consolidation of the cultural identity of a country. We in Romania still import more cultural activity than we export. I don't know if you in Greece import more cultural activity than you export, but we cannot imagine a society without culture, without sight, without music, without concerts, films, show. How is our life going
Culture is anthropocentric. Without the anthropos, without the man, you don't have culture. You don't have movies, you don't have music, you don't have paintings, you don't have literature. Without the person, you cannot have culture.
So we talked more about digitalization, and this is why I asked you if you think that culture as we knew it is dead.
In a digital environment, you mean?
But I'm sure that it has to change. It has to adapt.
Yes, the society is changed, the way of life is changed. So I think that culture also should follow, for better or worse, but it should follow.
How supportive is the Greek public towards the events, and how involved is in supporting culture and its importance in general? Because in Romania, we have a particular situation. We have a larger population than Greece, with about 9 million people more, and a less developed cultural tradition, mostly because of the 50 years of dictatorship. And in the past 30 years of freedom, culture has struggled to be perceived a part of as a part of life, not only an interest for the highly educated people. And at the same time, cultural events contributed with lots of money to the public budget, more than other sectors. They proved it's an important factor in driving the economy forward. So while many artists voice their concerns and understand that we live in an ecosystem where more than 1,100 people are involved in and attract millions of participants, there are many others who consider that helping culture is not a priority. It's not the moment now, is a famous saying in Romania, inspired by a famous commercial here. Is there such a situation in Greece? Is the public more involved? Or is there also concern that the cultural products will be more expensive, or they are only for those highly educated? What's the opinion there?
I wouldn't say that the audience is not supportive at all. But we have to stress out that in this situation, it's the audience that it's skeptical towards the situation. It will say that I have to save money to get to the supermarket and provide for my family, instead of going to a concert and give 10 euros, 20 euros, etc. But all in all, I would say that the audience is very supportive up to this day and until the coronavirus era. Now it goes to show how it's going to respond to this new situation.
I agree with Theodore, of course. I would like to disagree a little bit with you, Anca, in your positioning that Romania doesn't have a strong cultural impact. I would say that one of my favorite theater playwriters is Ionesco. Ionesco comes from Romania and has changed the way we perceive contemporary theatrical representation and understanding, not only to Romania, not only to Greece, but to the entire world.
Yes.
And I've been to Romania and I see culture all over the country, and I'm proud about this thing. Some of the cultural features also address our recent or less recent Greek history. So I wouldn't agree with you about Romania not being culturally exposed. I think it's enough exposed and enough developed. Talking about Greece, coming to my country, I would say, of course, that if you make a comparison, Greece has a more clear cultural impact, also based on the fact that we have the cultural background of our language and our long-lasting ancient history, and also the promotion from tourism. Greece's main industries is not culture, but is shipping, as said before, and also tourism. So tourism also to Romanian visitors works as a propagation of our contemporary and our ancient culture. Just bear in mind that Greece has the most archaeological museums in the world, one of the largest per capita lists of listed monuments by UNESCO heritage sites, and lots of theaters, lots of cultural venues, lots of ancient venues still in use, like ancient theaters are still used in the summer, maybe not that extensively this summer due to the pandemic. So what I want to say is that every country, especially in Europe and in the framework of the European Union that we share together, has to invest in culture, as I said before, not only because it's something asked for by the audience, and this is truly is the case in Greece, and my visit was only in Bucharest. I understood that it is a very, very, very dynamic, the largest Balkan animation, the largest animation festival of that times, which is Annie Friedman is very important. Ligia Suarez,
Animest, yes.
And magnificent person and a big friend of Greece and Greek animation, and we're big friends of Romanian animation. I can make you a very, very large list of very young and very promising Romanian animation. So I think the audience has been, as Theodore said, very, very applausive prior and during the pandemic, and this is one of our most important rewards. As Theodore said, you need an audience, you need the public in order to create, to be an artist. It's a social procedure. This thing is not as a solitude procedure. You have to have an audience, but it's not the only thing required in order to have a strong cultural impact. It's not the only thing required for cultural development in both our countries. My understanding is that the state has to have structural support to the arts, both underground and mainstream arts, every form of arts, ranging from totally niche markets and niche forms of arts to more extensively applauded forms of art. And but also we have to slowly and gradually invest more in the private sector funding. Like, you have to attract sponsors. You have to go to foundations and convince them that it's crucial for the social appeal and for their social standing and for their philanthropy to support contemporary culture and co-fund along with own means and with state funding the new face of European art scene. And because I do believe that we share pretty much the same problems, Greece and Romania and the other EU member states nowadays, not because of the pandemic, even prior to the pandemic. You know, like, I can understand that a good coexistence scheme between the state and the private sector and the civic society is a good balance that will bring prosperity to the art sector. I don't mean only financial prosperity, I mean also audience applause, and I mean free creativity in democratic society.
I think Vassilis is right on the money. I would add that the state should also invest in education itself. If you have educated people, educated citizens, then these citizens which are educated can put a pressure on every government that comes and say, okay, look, there's a great festival in Syros with Vassilis, please support it. If you don't have the knowledge, if you don't have, let's say, the deepness in order to judge a certain cultural event or project, you cannot have really an opinion. If you are educated and if you know some things, you can value the festival that Vassilis has in Syros, the festival in Patmos, etc., every festival all around Greece and all around Europe, and you can put pressure in your government. Otherwise, you will be indifferent. You will say, okay, I don't care, I just want to eat and support my family, I want to sleep and work, etc. Life, as we know, it's not only these things. It's these things plus much more.
This is why I was talking about the different approaches in Romania, because it's not only a question about education, but also about accessibility. You were talking about islands, but there are a lot of towns and, of course, villages in Romania. They seem far more than islands. I can come to Athens with a 2-hour flight and then go take a boat, take a ferry to an island, and I can be there in less hours than I can go to Sibiu, and less hours than I can go to another parts of the country, because our infrastructure is a bit different. And of course, the exposure to culture is different. So
I think the problem in Romania, because I have been sometimes there in Romania, and I really love your country. It's a fantastic country. I would say that there is a certain difference between the level of living and the level of culture in various cities. For example, if you take, let's say, Bucharest, which is the capital, and Braila or Galați, it's one world, this galaxy and another galaxy there. For me, in culture and life itself, in general, If you take Athens as the capital city and Thessaloniki, Piraeus, Patra, and other cities, the difference is not so huge. This is, for my opinion, what's maybe the problem in Romania. Although it's a fantastic country, very rich tradition regarding, like Vassilis said, the theater, UNESCO, music, UNESCO, conductors like Telipitake, fantastic tradition. But nevertheless, I see a huge gap between, let's say, the capital city and the rest of the city.
This is also because of the infrastructures, as we talked about, education and approach to cultures, but also because these kind of events like the amazing Animes, like TIFF and One World and many other festivals in Romania have developed because they were helped by and driven by passionate people who worked tirelessly and made lots of efforts. They had teams involving hundreds of volunteers who tried to put all these things together and create a tradition, and then proving to the authorities and proving to the public and getting more and more people interested in culture and getting the country known through their work, as you have done there. It's a very critical situation, and as Theodoros put it, the future also depends on education. Regarding culture, what is to be done in this area, especially studying fine arts, music, acting, cinematography, cultural management? How do you think this crisis will change the studies and culture in general?
More needs to be done in education, like we said, but I think that in general, like in Syros, the festival of Vassilis, in Patmos, the Sacred Music Festival we have in the island. These things happen due to certain people. If you don't have the drive, if you don't have the passion to accomplish these things, none of this would be possible if you would depend on the government, on the state, on a foundation, let's say. These are the personalities that count in these occasions, in order to have something with deepness and something that really matters. It's very essential, actually.
What about...
We come again, sorry, Anca, again to Theodore's positioning that everything is human-centered, anthropocentric. So it's all about people. Culture is all about people.
So people collaborate. What could artists and governments alike have to do to strengthen our ties and our friendship through culture? And why is this important? Not only for us. Well, Theodoros was born in Switzerland, if I'm right. Vassilis in Greece. You have traveled around the world and strengthened ties with many artists. How could you, other artists and governments, could strengthen our ties and friendship through culture?
I would say that this is a European now thing. You go to another level for me. It's very stressful, and it's very disappointing to see that the European Union still remains in the economical side of things. I would say that this is a golden opportunity to go even deeper and strengthen the traditions of the European countries and interact with each other. Let's say Romania and Greece and Italy and etc. All of the European countries should have, let's say, besides the economical side of things and matters, should have also things that matter besides money, things that are very deep-rooted in people, like tradition, like how we eat, what we say, what we have, what is our legacy, actually. It's good that we have the unification with the euro and everything. This is fine. But this cannot be only the case. That there is much more that we should do, and there's much more coming our way. This is my opinion.
And share our culture and identities.
And come closer. Of course.
Because the cultural identity of Greece is not stated in the tzatziki.
Of course, it's tzatziki. It's also tzatziki. It's also bouzouki, but not only tzatziki and not only bouzouki.
Exactly.
Yes.
Vassilis, what is your opinion?
I agree that it's a European scale question nowadays to enhance our cultural exchange on a multilateral level, but talking also on a bilateral level between Greece and Romania. Please bear in mind that that's why also there is a Hellenic Foundation for Culture in Bucharest. For us, your culture and your nation and your history is part of our history. 1/3 of our Greek Revolution history was created in the margins of contemporary
Very
Romania.
true, very true. Yes, yes,
your culture
very
is
true.
very, very important to Greece. And if you get to meet Greeks, there are lots of things, even though we're not neighbors, physically neighbors, there are lots of things we're sharing. We're part of the same Greco-Roman world, which is spanning throughout Europe, you know, like, and something that, especially when you get to know Romanian people, I got extensive collaboration with Romanian animation professionals. You realize that there are lots of things linking, and of course, this is deeply rooted in our common history. And of course, with our new European dimension, it's much easier to do exchanges, and it's like when I work with European animators, I consider Romanian animators one of the most, let's say, beneficial and the most privileged collaborators of our network. Because we share many things.
I would say in general, Vassilis, that if we compare all the Balkans, we are more close, like Greeks. We are more close to the Romanians than everyone else in the Balkan Peninsula. I would say this.
As we reach the end of our meeting, I invite each of you to offer a word of advice and encouragement to our and your fellow artists and event organizers from Greece and from Romania.
I would say support culture. I said before the coronavirus crisis, etc. After a concert, I would say to the audience, please support culture, support music and culture itself. We do not have a future without it, with corona or not with coronavirus. It's very essential.
Vassilis, how about you?
I wish mutually to the artists of Greece and the artists of Romania to stand powerful. The time is difficult, but the potentials for developing a new thing are here. If we work together and we work jointly, also in the framework of our European family, the future is going to be brighter than we think.
If the future is going to be more relaxed and bright during the summer or during the autumn, we don't know. But I would like to invite you to present in a minute the festivals you were talking about at the beginning of our meeting. So let's talk about Animasyros.
First and foremost is to take it. Yes, first and foremost is to take it step by step. We don't know how things are going to be in autumn. Autumn is very far away. Let us talk for the coming months and for the wonderful Greek summer we have.
So Theodoros, what do you have in mind for August?
We have the 19th Festival of Sacred Music of Patmos. This year we have the anniversary of the 15 years without Stavros Kouyoumtsis, a Greek composer who used to be very famous and is very famous here. He has composed a secret work which is called Hymns of Angels in Human Rhythms. It's a very nice, very strong work, which is going to be performed by Sonia Theodoridou and Tassos Niousias as narrator, with the Symphony Orchestra of Contemporary Music of the Hellenic Broadcast ERT. We have another work by the composer Savas Karadzias, coming from the island of Rhodes, which is a very nice and strong work as well, which has caused a sensation in Russia and abroad. It's called Theophanis the Greek. Theophanis was a Byzantine painter, a student of Andrei Rublev, and Mr. Karadzias has done a marvelous work, and we will have also this work as well. We have the Requiem by Alfred Snitke, which is going to be performed. We have the wonderful mixed choir of Thessaloniki with the conductor Merikos Theodorou. And we have also Mr. David Yanni coming especially from Luxembourg in order to close the festival. It's going to be a very special festival indeed, because we have these all new kinds of rules we have to follow. But nevertheless, the quality remains very high, and I think we will have a very successful festival. It's from the 28th of August to the 1st of September.
Thank you so much, Vassilis. What about Animasyros?
As said, 23rd to the 27th of September is the planned date of our 13th edition. We're planning to do things with adaptations, as said, with restricting most indoor activities, focusing on outdoor activities, refraining all vulnerable social groups like senior citizens, as you've seen on the video, or people with disabilities, or people HIV positive that we work with every year, social groups that we want to embrace in our festival. And we do it every year, but this year is not the right year. So we refrain to the socially safe groups with our educational activities. We will refrain from most social activities like parties and things that social congestion may occur. And of course, determine our full program of this year's festival according to the announcements of the government and of the local municipality and regional authority.
Good luck, Vassilis.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, Vassilis. Good luck, Theodoros.
Thank you. Thank you, Anca.
Thank you very, very much.
No rock, no rock.
No rock, on behalf of the Greek Cultural Foundation in Romania, for these kind words and for taking the time to participate in this meeting. It has been a great pleasure for us all, and we wish you all the best and good luck in your activity. So for our viewers, we had talked with Theodoros Orfanidis, conductor and co-founder of Orchestra Mobile and artistic director of the music festival that is going to be in Patmos, and Vassilis Karamitsanis, president of Animasyros International Animation Festival. Really hope to hear from you soon with the good news from Greece and see culture thriving in the future.
Amen to that.